Well, hi there. Thank you for coming to Traverse Area District Library Zoom programming. You can find all of our programs at TADL.org/events. And you can also find most of our programs have been recorded, and those are on our YouTube channel at TADL Not Just Books. Tonight we are with Alexis, who is a member of the American Corps, sorry.
Yes.
And she volunteers for the American Red Cross, and she'll be doing a presentation on winter storms. We do have the chat feature and question and answer at the bottom of your screen, most of you. If you have any questions, just utilize those features at the end of the program. That will work. And thank you, Alexis, for coming. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that introduction. I'm gonna go ahead and try to share the screen. All right. Can you see that?
Yes.
Awesome. So I'm gonna just, for the sake, okay. So yes, thank you for the introduction. Welcome everybody to this Be Red Cross Ready presentation. And thank you for joining us today. And thank you again to the Traverse City Library for hosting us, not only today, but all month long for this National Preparedness Month. My name is Alexis Greb, and I am a member of the AmeriCorps, which I work with I work in the Red Cross chapter in Grand Rapids, Michigan, but we have chapters all over Michigan, of course. AmeriCorps is a national service program that matches people with nonprofits and other service agencies to tackle our nation's most pressing challenges. I work with the Red Cross, and we focus on disaster cycle services. There are a few questions that I would appreciate you answer before we begin our presentation, which should be linked in the email you received when you signed up for the presentation. This is something I must ask for my program, and it really helps us track the success of our programming. I will be asking you to fill out this form again after the presentation so that we can get a sense of how successful it was in giving you information. So today we'll be discussing winter storms and how to prepare for them and how to respond to them. But first, I'll be discussing disasters in general and the 3 basic steps the Red Cross recommends to prepare for them. Struggling. Immediate struggle. Here we go. So the fact is that disasters happen, and they happen often with little to no warning, anywhere at any time, and can affect any community. We consider it a disaster if normal response systems are overwhelmed, people are hurt, and property is damaged or destroyed. The Red Cross responds to all of these disasters and more. Not all of these will apply to the Northern Michigan region, but if you're traveling or if you know anyone who will be in a different part, if any member of your household will be somewhere else, these are all different disasters that we respond to. So I know we only have one person right now, but we could just move on to the kind of disasters that we do run into here in Northern Michigan. So that typically is home fires, floods, tornadoes, wildfires, extreme heat, thunderstorms, and winter storms. The most popular, that's a weird way to put it, the most common being home fires. And today we'll be focusing on winter storms. So in any of the disasters we talked about, a lot of people assume that someone else will be there to help. However, resources just aren't there to support everyone immediately. First responders, disaster organizations, government agencies, and hospital emergency rooms do their best, but on average, these groups are staffed and prepared for normal day-to-day operations, and resources are limited during a disaster. The truth is that we have to depend on ourselves first, because there may be many reasons why you can't access these resources, such as impassable roads or unavailable utilities, and the different businesses that you utilize every day might be closed. So you must be prepared to help yourself and your household and your neighbors and older adults. So preparing helps us stay safe and adapt to these challenges and recover quickly when a disaster does occur. So what does it take to be prepared? To be Red Cross ready, you need to do 3 things. You need to get a kit, and your kit should contain supplies that you will need if you have to evacuate. You should make a plan, which will identify the steps you will take to respond to a specific disaster, and you should be informed. You should learn how you will get information if a disaster occurs and what resources are available in your community. Now let's look at these in greater detail. So step 1 is get a kit. At minimum, you want your kit to have supplies that last about 3 days, but we recommend 2 weeks as the better option. That kit will stay in your household. It's really good for if you ever have to shelter in place. Your go bag will be a mobile version of your household kit that contains supplies for at least 3 days in case you need to evacuate quickly, perhaps in a house fire, or if maybe you lose electricity and you need to evacuate your home during a winter storm. We also recommend, especially for people in Michigan, to consider having a go bag for their vehicle that's always in their vehicle. So if they ever are stuck, and especially that's common in the winter, they have resources in their car to keep them safe and help them respond better to unexpected situation. Think about what you use on a daily basis and what you might do if these resources are limited or not available. You can see some examples here on the slide. Start with the basics: non-perishable food, water, flashlights, and a first aid kit. And then for water, we recommend you have a gallon of water per person per day, 1/2 for drinking and the other half for sanitation. You need to keep in mind that we may not have access to clean water in the event of a disaster. So here is just an overview of different supplies you can put in your kit. So it's pretty basic stuff. You want batteries, a supply for medication, at least 7 days, sanitation items, any important documents, current photos of loved ones, contact information for household members, any extra, like a little bit of extra cash so that you're not relying on a electrical system for money, at least one emergency blanket, and a map of the area so that if you don't have access to maps on your phone, you'll still be able to navigate the area. This list might seem a little overwhelming, but it does take time to become prepared, so you should not be too intimidated by that. So step 2 is to make a plan. Different hazards may require you take different actions, but here are some general plan recommendations. You want a plan that has information on how you would evacuate should you need to, where you would meet members of your household or members of your family, how you would communicate with each other or with people you need to communicate with, important records that you will need to bring, where you'll stay if you can't stay at home, and what you would be doing in the event that you have to shelter in place. Individuals with access and functional needs will need to prepare a bit differently, so you should create a personal support network that can help you plan and provide assistance if a disaster happens. Remember not to depend on one person. Include a minimum of 3 people in your network. Complete a personal assessment of functional abilities and possible needs during and after a disaster situation. And practice and update your plan as much as possible. It's good to know that, I would say, whenever you know that some bad weather is coming, to just kind of look over your plan and make sure it still is functional for whatever needs you have. We're all changing people and your needs will be changing over time. Don't forget to plan ahead for what you will do with your pets. Most American Red Cross shelters cannot accept pets because of health and safety concerns unless they are service animals, which are accepted in their shelters. Contact your local emergency management agency for a list of pet-friendly shelters. Don't keep your plan to yourself, of course. If you have other members in your household, you're going to want to make sure that you all are on the same page so that if a disaster occurs, you can all react in a timely manner. So step 3 is be informed. So by attending this presentation, you're already one step closer to being informed. You should know how your community warns of coming disasters, such as using outdoor sirens or a smartphone alert. We recommend that you have the NOAA battery-powered weather radio, or that you listen to local stations for updated information. This will allow you, especially with the radio, to get updated information even if you don't have electricity. You should try to understand how different weather alerts and what they mean. And we will actually go over this in relation to winter storms shortly. Know your neighbors because they can be a good resource if you are ever in need of any help. Learn about an area's usual disasters, which again, you're doing as being a part of this presentation, and have plans for those specific disasters should they happen. It's also a really good idea to create emergency contact cards. So you might you might lose your cell phone, it might not be working, it might break, and then you won't have any of the contact information that you left in your cell phone. So it's really good to have a sort of manual version of all your contact information that's essential should you need to contact anyone in an emergency. That way you'll be able to use someone else's phone or some other means by which to communicate with them. We recommend memorizing at least one phone number that you don't have to write down so that should you have to respond, you'll have that option. Okay. And in regards to being aware and being alert of different situations, I'm going to plug in the Red Cross Emergency app here. It can send you weather and other emergency alerts so that you can be prepared, and it can also help you make a plan so that you know what you're doing. It's a really great way to stay informed. And so now we're going to move on to actually talking about winter storms, which is the topic of today's presentation. As the people of northern Michigan know, winter storms are weather events that can bring snow, sleet, and freezing rain. They can affect even tropical places in southern cities such as Atlanta and Dallas, which have been paralyzed by snow and ice in the past. Sometimes winter storms can become blizzards. Blizzards are characterized by strong winds and blowing snow, which can cause whiteout conditions to develop, making driving especially dangerous. The extreme cold air that accompanies all winter storms combined with strong winds can also cause frostbite and hypothermia. Each year, hundreds of people in the United States are injured or killed by exposure to cold, vehicle accidents on wintry roads, and fires caused by the improper use of heaters. 2012 marked one of the worst blizzards for our area and knocked out power throughout the region. Roads were closed as the plows were pulled off the roads. As much as 30 inches of heavy wet snow fell on parts of Grand Traverse, taking down power lines and leaving many of the rural parts of the area dark for days. The northern part of Michigan were under a state of emergency. Both electricity and phone services were down, as was cell service. 2019 brought the polar vortex, which had extremely low temperatures and thus huge risks for frostbite, hypothermia, death for those without proper protection. So earlier I talked about the importance of being informed about disasters, and understanding winter storm alerts allows you to be more prepared for disasters. The National Weather Service will issue notices when weather conditions make winter storms more likely. The exact criteria for issuing notices may vary across the country, especially for those areas that are not used to winter storm conditions. These are the three commonly used terms to describe the likelihood and severity of winter storms, which are advisory, watch, and warning. A winter weather advisory, or sometimes in our area, lake effect snow advisory, means that winter weather conditions such as freezing rain, snow, or sleet are expected, but conditions are not hazardous enough to issue a warning. These are often issued for 3 to 8 inches of snow, blowing and drifting snow, freezing drizzle, or a combination of these elements. When there's an advisory, you should monitor conditions and exercise caution when driving. A winter storm watch, or sometimes in our area, a lake effect snow watch, means that there is a potential for a winter storm to affect the region that will produce at least warning level snow. And in our region, warning level snow is 8 inches of snow in 12 hours or 10 inches of snow in 24 hours. Strong winds, low wind chills, or mixed precipitation during the next 1 to 3 days are also possible occurrences for a watch. But the occurrence, timing, and severity are not yet certain for the storm, and so the watch is used to communicate that with people. A winter storm warning, or a lake effect snowstorm warning, indicates that life-threatening severe weather conditions have begun or will begin within 24 hours. Significant and hazardous snow, sleet, or ice is imminent. The criteria includes 8 inches or more in 12 hours or 10 inches in 24 hours, or lower amounts if accompanied by strong winds or a combination of dangerous winter elements. A warning means you must take immediate steps to avoid serious illness or injury. Don't travel until conditions improve at all. Other types of watches and warnings can be issued for winter weather, including for wind chill. The wind chill is a temperature that the air feels to human skin. It's a combination of the low temperatures that are outside, but also the wind gusts that make that low temperature seem much colder. A wind chill advisory is used for the values between -25 and -35 degrees Fahrenheit across the eastern upper Michigan, and -20 to -30 degrees Fahrenheit for the northern lower Michigan. And a wind chill warning is issued when the apparent temperature reaches below -35 degrees in the eastern upper Michigan and -30 degrees in the northern lower Michigan. In both cases, people are at risk for frostbite and hypothermia. Also be aware that the lower the wind chill, the faster frostbite can occur. You should dress warmly and cover as much exposed skin as possible. And we will talk more about frostbite shortly. Here are some other common winter storm alerts used in Michigan. So a hazardous weather outlook includes any potential hazard weather that's coming up in the next 7 days. It's mostly used for planning purposes and will include a short description of what the weather threat is. A blizzard warning is issued when snow or blowing snow lowers visibility to about 1/4 of a mile or less, or wind gusts hit 35 miles per hour and the storm lasts for more than 3 hours. It just indicates that travel is dangerous and should be avoided if possible. Ice storm warnings are issued when freezing rain will cause widespread glazing. So a coating of ice is expected to reach 1/4 of an inch thick, and driving will be very, very difficult and dangerous. So it's best to avoid travel during these warnings as well. And just a quick note about ice recreation. Ice on lakes and streams can be deadly. Before fishing, skiing, snowmobiling, or engaging in any other activities on ice, check with local officials such as your State Department of Natural Resources, who monitors the body of water. If you see any of the following conditions, do not go out on the ice. This will include cracks, holes, or breaks in the ice, any flowing water around the edges of the ice or just below the surface or over the top of the ice, or ice that appears to have thawed and refrozen. If you do decide to venture onto ice, remember the following guidelines. You should be staying off of ice if it is less than 2 inches thick. For any ice fishing, ice skating, and walking, you'll need 4 inches or more of ice. For snowmobiles and ATVs, you will need at least 5 inches. To drive a car or a small pickup on ice, you'll need at least 8 to 12 inches, and for medium-sized trucks, there must be 12 to 15 inches. White or snow ice is only about half as strong as new clear ice. Double these thickness guidelines when traveling on white ice. At this point, we have already discussed the 3 steps that you and your household can take to prepare for a disaster. Collecting essential disaster supplies, creating a household disaster plan, and becoming informed about preparedness in general. Now we'll discuss the extra steps that you can take to be ready for winter storms. First, there are a few things you should consider adding to your disaster kit when you're planning for winter storms, such as shovels or other equipment to clear snow or ice, tools and supplies for securing your home, ice melt for walkways, snow gear, and if you don't already have a battery-powered radio, it would be really good to consider getting one. Also, you should seriously consider having a disaster kit in your car and updating it to be more appropriate for winter weather. This would include having a windshield scraper and a snow shovel, having a small bag of sand, snow trains, or traction mats to improve tire traction in deep snow, extra warm clothing such as hats, gloves, and socks, blankets and hand warmers, bottled water and non-perishable food, a tow rope, battery cables, a toolkit, and a road map. Before a winter storm, you should consider winterizing your vehicle. That would include having a mechanic check your car to make sure that it's in good working condition, installing good winter tires, and things like that. You should also be tailoring your disaster plan for what you and your household will do during a winter storm, especially including your pets. Learn about your community's winter storm plan and identify any emergency shelters or warming centers in your local area. If you do not own a form of transportation, plan for how you will get to an emergency shelter or warming center. Don't assume that your pets and animals are staying warm. You should know that they have different limits than you would expect. Some dogs are more sensitive to cold than others. Some smaller breeds or short-haired dogs, puppies and geriatric dogs, and those with other medical conditions are more sensitive to colder temperatures. Plan ahead to keep all of your animals warm. Think about what you would take where you would take your animals if you had to leave your home because of a long-term power outage or snow damage. If a winter storm is predicted, it is vital to check and replenish your disaster supplies for your household and your pets. Bring your pets indoors. Be sure to have ample heating fuel and continuously monitor the local area radio, the National Weather Service radio, or TV for news and updates. Once you've done this, you can have time, and if you have time left over, you can inform and help friends or neighbors that may need additional assistance. Check to and fill your vehicle's gas tank in case you need to evacuate, or confirm the closest emergency shelters and warming centers. During a winter storm, your goal should be to stay warm, dry, and hydrated and nourished. The best way to do this is by staying inside. Make sure that heating sources are properly ventilated and not blocked by snowdrifts. Stay informed of weather conditions. If you lose either power or heat for an extended period of time during a winter storm, you may need to evacuate based on your plan. If you have a generator, be familiar with the operating instructions ahead of time. You can find additional information about generators and proper use on the American Red Cross website. If you must go outside, even for a few minutes, make sure to dress in layers and wear a hat and gloves, and walk carefully on icy sidewalks. Be sure to know the signs of frostbite and hypothermia and how to treat them. More on this in the next slides. Frostbite occurs when parts of the body become so cold they begin to freeze. Frostbite usually affects fingers, toes, the nose, and earlobes, all these parts of our bodies that are hanging out and not always covered very well. When a body becomes too cold, it may begin to show signs of frostbite. Be on the lookout for a lack of feeling in the affected area, skin that appears waxy, skin that is discoloring and becoming flushed, white, gray, yellow, or blue, skin that is cold to the touch. We'll talk later about what you can do to treat frostbite, but there are some simple steps that you can take to avoid frostbite. Be aware of the wind chill. Drink plenty of warm fluids, but try to avoid caffeine and alcohol. Stay active to maintain body heat. Limit time outside during cold temperatures and dress appropriately by wearing layers, hats, and gloves. You can also apply all of these signs and tips to animals as well. If you notice any signs of frostbite, immediately move the person to a warmer place and remove any wet clothing. Be very gentle and never rub or pop blisters on the frostbitten area. You can warm the affected area by soaking it in water that is 100 to 105 degrees Fahrenheit until the area appears red and feels warm. Once the affected area is warm, loosely bandage the area with sterile dressings. Make sure to place sterile gauze between the frostbitten fingers and toes to keep them separated. And as soon as you can, seek professional help and do not let the frostbitten area refreeze. Hypothermia is a serious condition that occurs when the body loses heat very rapidly and can be life or limb threatening. Be on the lookout for someone who has become confused, is having difficulty speaking, can't stop shivering, is overcome with sleepiness, and has developed stiff muscles. The steps to avoid or prevent hypothermia are the same for frostbite, so just being aware of that wind chill, drinking plenty of warm fluids, staying active, limiting your time outside, and again, dressing appropriately by wearing layers, hats, and gloves. Be mindful particularly of very young people and older adults as they may have difficulty keeping warm or cool in cold conditions. So if you notice any signs of hypothermia, immediately call 911 and gently move the person to a warmer place. Remove any wet clothing that the person is wearing and slowly begin to warm the person with blankets until emergency medical professionals arrive. Now, a big difference between this and frostbite is you do not want to put the hypothermic person in a warm bath or shower, as it may warm them too quickly. So moving on, because again, driving in Michigan in the winter, it can be very easy to get trapped in your vehicle and not be sure how you're going to, when or how you're going to get help. So some tips though is The big one is being aware of black ice when driving in the winter. It is often clear, not white, with the black road surface being visible underneath, which is where it gets its name. It is most prevalent during the early morning hours, especially after snowmelt on the roadways has a chance to refreeze over the night when the temperature drops below freezing. Black ice can also form when roadways are slick from rain and the temperature drops below freezing overnight. If you become stranded in your car during a winter storm, stay in your vehicle and wait for help. Display a trouble sign to indicate you need help, such as hanging a brightly colored cloth on the radio antenna, or maybe hanging it in your window if you don't have a radio antenna, but just finding a space where you can display this sort of SOS signal to people. And then raising your car hood after the snow stops falling. Run the engine occasionally to keep warm, turning the engine on for about 10 minutes each hour or 5 minutes every half an hour. Running the engine for only short periods of time reduces the risk of carbon monoxide poisoning and also conserves fuel so that you can stay out there a little bit longer than you would have been able to otherwise. Make sure to use your heater while running the engine. And keep the exhaust pipe clear of snow and slightly open a downward window for ventilation, again, to help prevent carbon monoxide poisoning. Do light exercises to keep up circulation, such as clapping your hands and moving your arms and legs occasionally. Do not try not to stay in one position for too long. If there is more than one of you, huddle together for warmth. And you can use newspapers, maps, and even just like the removable floor mats on your car to add insulation. And then these layers will help trap more body heat. And always watch for signs of frostbite and hypothermia. Do not sleep for long periods of time in a stranded vehicle. If you are not awakened periodically to increase your body temperature and circulation, you can freeze to death. If there is more than one person in the vehicle with you, it would be a good idea to take turns sleeping so that you can wake each other up and also keep watch for any help that may arrive. So once a winter storm has passed, you should still avoid driving and other travel until conditions have improved. If you must drive, use extra care and have a winter survival kit in your vehicle. Use caution when cleaning snow and take frequent breaks to warm up. Heart attacks, often due to overexertion from shoveling heavy snow, are a leading cause of death during the winter and are responsible for nearly 100 deaths every winter. If you lost your power, check refrigerated food for spoilage, and you always want to remember, when in doubt, throw it out. If there's any chance that your food might have spoiled, you don't want to be eating it. And then help people who require assistance, including those with infants, older adults, individuals with access or functional needs, and those with medical needs. And then continue to pay attention to snowfall, icing, rainfall, and possible flooding. Before a winter storm, you can also take steps to protect and winterize your home. Prevent frozen pipes by draining pools and exterior sprinkler lines. You can winterize outdoor hose bibs by closing inside valves, supplying water to the hose bibs, draining the water in the line, and then leaving the outside bib valve open so that any water left inside can expand without causing the pipe to break. Add insulation around any water supply lines in unheated areas like the garage or under the kitchen and bathroom sinks. During very cold weather, keep the garage door closed and cabinet doors open to keep the areas warmer. Make sure your home is properly insulated to keep cold air out. Use caution and be assured that all heating equipment is properly vented and in good working condition. Now remember, 3 feet from the heat. Make sure anything that could catch fire, such as furniture, curtains, dish towels, or clothing, is at least 3 feet away from any heat source. Do not heat your house with a stove. If you came to our presentation on home fires, you know that winter months are actually the busiest months in Michigan for fire departments. Consider buying emergency heating equipment or installing a portable generator. If you do get a generator, become familiar with the operating instructions and take precautions to avoid carbon monoxide poisoning, electrocution, and fire. Always keep ample heating fuel, oil, wood, or coal on hand. Ensure fire extinguishers, smoke alarms, and carbon monoxide detectors are all working. Make sure snow removal equipment is available and in working condition. And then trim or remove dead tree branches that are close enough to fall on buildings and clear any leaves that are covering vents. Now, this can seem really overwhelming, but there are weatherization programs particularly available to low-income households to assist in this process and keep you safe. So this is all the information today concerning snowstorms. If you or someone you know ever experiences a disaster, they can call the National Red Cross phone number and be connected to the chapter closest to their location. We should be seeing snow here in northern Michigan very soon, so I'm really thankful for everyone who attended the presentation and decided to become more prepared. Are there any questions?
Doesn't look like there is any, Alexis.
Awesome.
I think you were just so well prepared that we were able to take really good notes, and then we know where to go back to it, which will be on our YouTube channel as well. It was a great presentation. Thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Yes, now let's see if I can figure out. Oh, I got this. I stopped. So I think we have one more presentation coming up next Thursday for hands-only CPR. So that you should totally come to that if you're free and available.
That'll be an interesting one. We'll see how Alana can pull that one off. It'll be good.
Well, I love the virtual hands-only CPR. I think it's a very successful program. So
good.
Definitely don't miss out.
I'm having a little bit of a hard time visualizing it, so I'll be there for sure.
Awesome. But yes, that's all I have for you. I'm very thankful. We will be sending out a post-program survey for you to fill out. So please fill that out. And yes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.